run this computer. Should record on the cloud, but fuck it. This will work. Derek! It's another punk theology, and we had other plans, but now the world is burning, so we figured we would chime in. And I don't want this to be, another couple of fucking white guys acting like experts, like no one wants to hear that. But the powerlessness attitude, and we've done some shows on that, COVID-19, and now this happening, like it really hits on that powerlessness theme, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean that's basically what this whole thing is about.
Yeah.
You and I were talking about a little bit before we started recording that. I mean, it's really about a power imbalance, and people, calling attention, like, look, this is a power imbalance. We don't feel safe.
Yeah.
And calling attention to it over and over and over and over again, and then feeling like the authorities just saying, like, we're not going to do anything, like, and then eventually, you do that enough times and it erupts in violence. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of like gravity. Like, it's gonna happen eventually if you get a group of people and you disempower them for long enough, and then you don't listen to them when they complain about it. Eventually, shit gets ugly because there has to be a release of that pressure somewhere, and this is how it comes out. So
yeah, exactly.
It's like, I wouldn't condone going out. I'm clearly not going to go raise a store to the ground and steal a bunch of shit. But at the same time, part of me is like, well, I mean, this is just kind of what happens. Like, this is
natural. I think it's natural.
Right. It's a natural order of things.
Yeah, yes. Hopeless and powerless. And when we're told to put our trust in the authorities. And when the authorities, they keep doing this shit over and over again. I mean, just me a few weeks ago, I'm sure I'm a white guy. If I was a black guy, this may have turned out way different for me. Just surrounded with angry white cops. We need to clear the intersection. I'm like, I still got my stuff in the car. This guy's like, I don't care, And then finally he stops and he lets me get to the car. And then he, like a minute later, hey, Shaw, get over here, and he wants me to talk to this woman. And then he writes me a ticket for not having my insurance and my registration right. And I actually pulled out my phone as he's writing the ticket, and I said, just, so I have this on record, man. Like, you're writing me a ticket for not having my license and registration while I'm holding in my hand my license and registration. He's like, well, you didn't get it fast enough. And I was like, this fucking asshole. Like, just de-escalation, just treating people like they're humans. Yeah. I mean, I'm busy and he needed to clear the intersection, like, that's fine. But talk to me like a fucking human being, all right? I'm not your enemy in fucking Afghanistan or some bullshit. Like, I don't know what kind of PTSD this motherfucker was bringing to the party, but if I was black, dude, like, this might have gone horrible. And that's sad for me to say in this country, like, fuck. I get it. I'm angry too. And yeah, we're a couple of fucking white guys, but
well, I mean, just add
solidarity with people who've been fucking roughed around by cops.
Add to it the fact that if you are black, you come into the situation with a higher level of anxiety than you would normally.
Yeah.
And that's in itself is just a huge factor.
Yeah.
Where you might do something scared and irrational because there is a long history that something could go really bad, and they should be scared.
Yeah.
And they are scared in that moment, and that is just a little bit more fuel to that fire too.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that just cycles on itself. And feeds itself. But yeah,
and there's all this whole, like, cops have a tough job, and I get that, and the military has a tough job. And I think it's some of this emotional intelligence around hiring highly skilled, or not even highly, just people that have been in the military. Having a survival kind of a emotional intelligence is a real thing. Like they react out of survival. Everyone is a threat in war. But you know what? You're not in fucking war, dude. Like this is is a society of people and your neighbors, and it's a different kind of emotional intelligence. And if until they really get serious about training people to de-escalate, we hear that, but it is true that you got to like stop acting like you're in a fucking war. Like, I think that's a big part of the problem, right?
And I think the way we did policing for a long time, I mean, it worked for a while, but it stayed for too long as one of those jobs you can just get out of high school.
Yeah.
And they'll take anybody, like anybody. Like I had some friends that I mean, not to say all cops are like that, but I had some friends that became cops. I was like, really? Like you got a job as a cop? Like you are
high school or something?
Yeah, you are a hair's breadth away from being a total sociopath. Like, and so I think America's having to wrestle with that and come to the realization like maybe we need highly trained, highly capable people in these positions, and you can't just throw some guy right out of the military that's really struggling with PTSD into a uniform and send them to a class for 3 months, spin them around and send them out into society with a gun and a license to kill. Basically, that's what we've given them. One of the easiest ways to kill somebody in society right now is death by cop. There's you just get a blank slate. I was looking the other day. Arthur sent me this thing. The number of cops in America since 1928 that have been convicted of murder on the job. What do you think the number was? 20. In 100 years with 20. And we average right now, 3,000 or 4,000 cop. I think last year was like 5,500 cop deaths by cop every year.
Yeah.
And like, there's just no way that only 20 of those in 100 years weren't fucked up.
This guy that shot George Floyd, like he had a record. He had a fatality shooting before. He had complaints for being an asshole and a bully. And, when you keep guys like that on the force, like, what do you fucking think is going to happen? And there's a lot of people, just checking my Facebook feed today and being a Christian. I know I shared some stuff about Martin Luther King, who's probably my favorite reformer, if you want to talk reformer language as far as being a Christian guy is concerned. But there's just a lot of people, that don't get it. Like, well, they're looting and they're breaking into places and that's just not right. And, well, what do you expect when you ignore people over and over again? You can protest, but you better behave yourself. Like, fuck you, like I get it. I wouldn't, you're right. Me too. I wouldn't be out there busting windows and doing shit like that. But yeah, at some point, things boil over. In 1968, when they assassinated Martin Luther King, I was born just 2 months after that. There was riots and people burned shit, right? Like, because he was the peacemaker. And, this is kind of how the world cranks things out. But hopefully the outcome of this is that, we're not going to tolerate, there should be, I think Chris Rock said it best, he said, who doesn't tolerate bad apples? Fucking airline pilots. Like we need to treat this that seriously. Like you don't hire cops, you don't keep cops around that are fucking bad apples. Like you have a low tolerance for having a short fuse in that profession.
And there's been a long history within the police world of protecting your own, which I get and can understand from some level, but I think it got way out of control.
Yeah.
Like, just no conscience about it at all anymore. Like you wear the badge you're in, type of thing. It's so hard. I was just going on a walk today and I was struggling so much with this because I grew up conservative and I like to try and stay middle of the road as much as possible. and try and see both sides. That's really important to me. And I've really been struggling lately because I am so disenchanted with the state of the right now.
Yeah, me too.
I can't even stomach it a little bit. And I really like my value, my identity as a person. It really does feel important for me to kind of find that middle ground and be able to see both sides. And I've just been losing it lately. Like I just cannot see the light on that conservative side anymore. It just feels sick, like really gross.
Yeah, I feel you, Derek. And we try not to get too political on this show, but in times like these,
Yeah.
it's like cooler heads prevail. No, they don't. And at some point, I think that's another thing that I wanted to add to this conversation, and I'm glad you brought that up because a big part of this is, and I think a big part of white privilege is just indifference, right? Oh, another black guy was shot. Oh, well, what else is on? Like, fuck you. No, you should be mad. And you're right. Like Donald Trump and this, like, there's a long history to that shit that he said about when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Like starting in the 60s.
Just fucking shit. And you can't tell me that guy didn't know.
Yeah, he absolutely.
Oh, I didn't know. I just thought of that on the spot. Like,
if he didn't know, the president of the United States absolutely should know. Exactly. So either way, it's embarrassing.
Exactly.
Like, he doesn't have
ignorant either way, right?
Yeah.
Either an ignorant fucking moron, or he's outright racist. Oh fuck yeah, it's so frustrating. But maybe I'm hearing helicopters now. Just before we started recording, I got some food and I cooked a chicken on the grill here. I was at the Walmart right up the street and grabbed some dog food and some beer, and this is 4:00 in the afternoon. I hear over the intercom, the Walmart store is closing. Please bring all your purchases to the front of the register. You hear the helicopter in the back. Walmart's like a mile from my house. Right?
Walmart doesn't close either.
No, it doesn't close. It's been closing at 10 for COVID.
Is it? Oh, yeah.
But now it's closed because the mall across the street has had, there's been threats of violence there and people breaking in. And yeah, here comes the helicopters, man. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right over my house. That's a police hill, too.
Yep. It's
times.
Yep. It's what makes you wonder what June's going to bring.
Hey, it's my birthday almost.
I saw this. Oh, yeah. Happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks. I'll be 52 on the 11th.
I saw this meme that said, those two astronauts that took off. It's like, those guys had balls to take off in a rocket ship during this year. Like, of all the shit that's gone down,
yeah,
like strapping yourself to a rocket took a lot of balls right now.
Yeah,
because that would have just added another thing to the list. Like another fucking rocket blew up. Yeah, great.
They had a lot of confidence in their engineering.
Yep.
At this point.
R for the course. Of course that happened. That was like one of the one successful things that happened in 2020.
Yeah.
Wasn't it a disaster?
Yeah. We're missing Steve.
Yeah.
Steve is going to chime in. He'll probably walk into the room if I get an email. We'll get it. He'll pop up on the screen here. We don't know. But, yeah, man. More bad news. What's good in the world, Derek? What do you got that's good going on?
I mean, the weather is actually fantastic today.
Yeah.
So honestly, this weather this spring has been pretty nice. It's been pretty warm. And, yeah, I've been enjoying it.
Yesterday was shit.
Yeah, that's true. The weekend wasn't great, but I just stayed inside and hunkered down a little bit. But today's really nice. What else is good in the room around? My mom's going to come out for a visit in a little bit.
Okay, cool.
Be good to see her from Idaho. My son's birthday, he'll be 7 on the 7th, so it's his golden birthday, so he's really excited about that. So this coming weekend.
Golden birthday was what is the significance?
His golden birthday is when you turn the age at the day of the month. So his birthday is the 7th, and he's turning 7.
Oh, cool. There you go.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that. That's
yeah,
good.
it's a big thing in some circles. Mine was when I was 2, so not so great.
You know,
certain people get really fucked on that deal, but
yeah, exactly.
but
Oh man, punk rock. You know, I was thinking about punk culture and sort of some of the stuff we're doing with this show is thinking about things that are countercultural in kind of moral culture, right? Like, or I don't just want to say religious culture. We're Christians, but we don't go to church, you know, stuff like that. Is and the way that this is kind of unfolding has been kind of propping up some of that. Like, I think it's really showing a lot of the institutional bullshit, the divide, you know, between black culture religiously. I used to go to a church here in Everett that was really multiracial for a while. It was sort of a prosperity gospel church, so it didn't work out very long. I can imagine those guys are having a hard time right now, right?
yeah.
Like if you started the year, 2020 is going to be awesome. It's going to be your year. The Lord told me in a dream that, you know, that He has favor on you, right? And yeah, those churches.
Or they're doing really well because it's not that hard to go up from here.
What's that?
I said, or they're doing really well because it's not that hard to go up from here. People want a little prosperity gospel right now.
Yeah, maybe. Right now they do, but if you've had it in the beginning,
if you had it before, probably. You have to do a full cycle. You have to push everybody out and get a new batch.
Right. You just bought that business that got shut down and then cleared out by looters.
Right.
Where was Joel Osteen's Jesus when that happened, man? I don't know. It's a little weird. But and then AC3, the church that we're affiliated with, kind of sort of. We had a guest on the show who protested the church. It was a good reason though too. But they had like a service in the car or something. I don't know if they were broadcasting on the radio, which is smart. Even when the governor kind of lifted the whole, when Trump came out and said, you know, we should be able to meet at church, and a bunch of churches opened, and they still stayed in their car and opened the garage door. The church has this huge garage door.
That was a good idea.
I thought that was pretty smart,
yeah.
Socially responsible for I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, they do that part really well. It's so weird. Again, like talking about flipping sides, like just how far I've come in a short period of time, in terms of flipping over to a much more, I don't know, traditionally liberal viewpoint on a lot of things, which really does make me uncomfortable.
Really?
I really do value that idea of being able to stay closer to the middle. But yeah, just dealing. I know this has come up before. Just dealing with my disappointment. Like the Republican Party is just incredibly disappointing to me right now.
Yeah, me too.
Just like it feels like they sold their soul to try and win an empty trophy. Like that's just really like it really is what it feels like. Like we're gonna throw off all the things that actually matter and had any good, moral, long-standing, intelligent, rational base, and we're just gonna go full steam ahead for all the crazy shit, all our crazy baggage. So it just feels like they dropped all the good stuff and they've just gone double down on all the shit that just really felt ugly for me, even when I was in it. you know, there was always that stuff on the side that was like, well, that's, you know, I'm not that type of conservative, right? Like, and then they just went like, okay, like, so that's all we are now. All we are is the gross stuff that you always hated. Um, and so, yeah, trying to, and, you know, there's a homelessness in that,
Mm.
like, like, and a powerlessness, because even if I do find people that are like-minded, right, they don't have any power because they don't even have close to a majority.
Yeah. I like what John said about being too conservative for your liberal friends and too liberal for your conservative friends. Like, I feel that a lot sometimes because there's still a part of me, like, I'm sitting here, Derek, in my backyard. My house is right here. And some of that is that kind of conservative, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You know, and I've been a fucking mess for years, but there was layers of me that got sober and at least wanted to put a roof over my family's head, and I worked hard, and I didn't even finish fucking high school, yet I have a house and a couple of cars, and we're doing okay. And some of that is that conservative part of me that really believed in the fact that, you know, and I don't, you know, there's some of that liberal language that says, well, you're a victim or whatever. Like, I'm not a fucking victim. You know, I'll work hard and I'll do the things it takes to accomplish what I accomplish, and some of that's luck, right? Like, I'll put that out there. Like, some of it's good fortune and blessing, and sure, even being a fucking white guy. I have black friends who, you know, have done some of this too, and the entrepreneurial thing. Like, we just realized that we're going to be in the place of working at a fast food place. Like, I mean, as far as work was concerned, I pretty much figured, okay, I'm going to be minimum wage. You know, if I don't do something entrepreneurial, like, I'm fucked. So that's that conservative part of me. But the liberal part of me is also like, yeah, I'm fortunate, right? Like, it wasn't just me. I think that's a consciousness thing. At some point, I was talking to a conservative friend, and he was saying that. Like, I go, yeah, but, you know, you had good parents who sent you to college and stuff like that. Like, you realize that, right? Like, this wasn't all you, buddy. Like, this wasn't all your picking yourself up by your bootstraps. Some of it was you were born into it. You were born white in an affluent house in North America, right? And so you got to bring that into your consciousness when it comes to seeing your fellow man.
I think
That's where I think you're talking about. That's where I'm getting frustrated with the conservatives, because everybody's like, well, no, I did this. Like, I made this happen.
right.
Like, you know, fortunate. And sure, I worked hard, but a lot of people fucking work hard and don't get shit. They end up in fucking prison. You know, I could go on.
I think the other part of it is there's a lot more room to be a moderate on the left than there is on the right now.
Yeah,
and I feel like in the past, when I grew up, there was a lot of room on the right to be a moderate. In fact, I think most of the people that I knew were fairly moderate. And the left seems a lot broader in terms of like, okay, like, yeah, like, yeah, you have your own opinions on some shit, that's okay. And the right seems to have just really streamlined a whole bunch of shit. Like, you have to believe this in this way and vote this way. And this is like, these are all the steps that you have to buy into. It's a really, you know, it's become a really tight club, and free thinking is not allowed anymore. And I just feel like I see that so often, like in interacting with so many of these people, and you get the exact same arguments using the exact same words with the exact same message. Like, they're just spitting it at you because they heard it somewhere.
Exactly.
And they're not thinking at all.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating, and yeah, it's not attractive at all. It's
polarizing, right? It's polarizing.
Yeah, and it's horrible to, you know, have some of my people that I love, that I grew up with, start to, you know, like, it does feel like they kind of turned into zombies.
Yeah.
Like, you're just spitting that same fucking rhetoric at me that I hear over and over. Like, where's the nuanced approach, right? Like tell me something original that I haven't just heard
Yeah.
50 other times from people exactly like you.
Yeah. Or Fox News or whatever.
Yeah,
Right?
cookie cutter Republicans.
And I will say that the Democrats, as far if we're on the political side of things, there's also, that's why I think the two-party system is so fucked. Like, I think the two-party system in this country is really destroying this country, because on the far left, you can't really have a mind either. Like, there's still, it's a popularity contest, and Joe Biden just happened to win the popularity contest. Like, he's a fucking disaster too. Like, I saw a meme where Obama was leaning into him, going, "Hey, I'm giving you an endorsement," and Biden says, "For what?" Because he's like fucking almost 80 years old and showing signs of dementia. But hey, he played the game and he got the, it's just weird the way that our political system works. We really like black and white, and we're gonna vote for that. Like, I don't even know if I want to vote anymore, just because it's such a,
Well,
like you're saying, it's just like a lower consciousness
I mean,
of people,
and
like voting for their thing.
to be clear, Russ, unless you live in one of 6 states, your vote doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
There are 6 states in this country that are going to decide this next election,
Well,
and everybody else doesn't really participate.
yeah,
So it's hard to get up and excited when you know your vote and your opinion really doesn't matter.
We live in a blue state. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, a very blue state. Like, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it would be very, very difficult for my vote to ever actually matter in a presidential election. That is,
No.
matters for other stuff, which I tend to take a lot more interest in, anyways. Senate and congressional and then local stuff, but yeah, the presidential stuff just doesn't matter.
And Misha works for the school district. That's a very, as far as power is concerned, it's very political driven kind of a profession, right? Like, you want to know who the,
Yeah, it's really, it's funny how that makes voting that much more important.
Yeah.
Because it makes a huge difference who's on those boards and
I'll be honest, like, I'm not Mr. informed too much on that shit. Like, since my kids grew up, like, fuck, I don't know. Just don't raise my taxes. I don't know. They keep doing that for the school levy, and hopefully things get better. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough just because, we're one of the few places that's growing. Snohomish County is growing like crazy.
Yeah, it is.
King County's dying. They're just nobody's having kids down there. So, and then everybody with kids comes up here. So, Misha was just telling me next year they're in a real money crunch.
Wow.
Because her school is going to grow. The incoming class is like 20% bigger than the class she has now. And they're already out of room. So they don't know. Like, she's during her off periods, she's going to have to give up her classroom because she's just going to have teachers that are going to be cycling classes because they just don't have enough classrooms to put everybody in. So, yeah, it's always complicated.
Yeah. It was the first time we got political on this show. No, we've kind of touched on it a few times.
We have touched on it, but
with Trump and stuff.
I mean, it's basically impossible not to be political right now.
It is. When something like this happens and people are bashing windows out, and
right. Well, it's like trying not to be political in 1968.
Yeah,
it just wasn't going to happen. There's too much shit. Like, it was just affecting your life in too many ways, and it was just it was just front and center. And we do spend a lot of time talking about identity and stuff, and like, there's just a whole bunch of identity issues in that. Like, I really do struggle with the flip that I've transitioned to. It makes me really uncomfortable. It's not Yeah, there's a part of me that really doesn't like that's concerned that I've gone too far, that's concerned that my opinions have shifted so radically. Um,
Yeah, I
and
think
so it's
it's
just trying to find some inner peace in that has been a
right.
chore.
And something that I've tried to hold on to, and it was actually Paul Young says this a lot, and we've kind of chatted, off of recordings about it and stuff too. Like he says a lot, like because he'll go into because he wrote this massive best-selling book, right? So they'll invite him out to like it's crazy some of the stories he could tell about people who invite him in who like know very little about his like politics and message. Not that he's political, but one of the things that he tells me is he goes, Russ, they're my people, and he says I grew up in that. Like
Right.
guys like you and I grew up with that religious tradition, and it's sort of like it's a consciousness thing. Like these are people who they're just like they want to feel safe and they want to feel like everything's going to be okay, and that's why when real change happens in a person's life, a big part of it is having to let go of some of that really shallow shit, whether it's liberal or conservative. But and it, sometimes it takes me, it's really, it's hard work to be in the room with people that those people I sound like an asshole, but it's really true. Like I love those people because I was one of them at one time. I was a very conservative, I got off of drugs, Derek. I quit using cocaine and methamphetamine, and I picked, and it wasn't just me. Like I would say that too. Like it was my picking the right Christian God, right? That was my thing, and I was so wise and reading my Bible and doing the things that they told me to do, right, to get off the dope. Like no, it's that's not how it works. Like it's way deeper than that, and you bring people into caring for humanity and loving other people. And um man, again, Martin Luther King keeps coming to my mind because that man changed things. He didn't do it with violence, um but he was a real live reformer when it came to Christian values for me, because I'd given up on all that. It's like fuck Christian values. But you read about him, and he changed things. He really did in a really difficult time. I don't know. That's part of why I'm a Christian, is because of guys like Martin Luther King Jr.
Honestly, so I mean, just going back to my struggle with flipping,
Right?
uh, like a big part of it is, I look at myself and think, well, if I was conservative me, looking at myself now, I'd be like, yeah, you moved to a blue state and you
Yeah.
got a job in the government. Like, surprise, surprise,
Right.
Derek is more left leaning now.
Yeah.
And that just, and I have to admit that there's probably something to that. But boy, does that irk me. Like, that just tears at me. I hate the idea of that's a powerlessness thing. Like, I hate the idea of just being a victim of my environment. Um, and like I just got turned eventually. Like I
Yeah.
just marinated in my environment long enough that they turned me. Um, and I don't want to believe that that's what happened, but I mean, it does play at least a little bit of a factor.
Yeah.
Uh, so I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see. I keep telling myself, like, look, this isn't the final chapter. You've got hopefully another 40 or 50 years. So it'll be interesting to see if I can go back and start to find the middle ground again, or if I'll just be some crazy lefty communist who decides to, I don't know, join a anti-fascist
Right.
club or something like that.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. That's some of the criticism I've got with the other show. Well, Russ is from Seattle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that hurts, but I get it.
And it
Um,
hurts because it might be true. Like
yeah,
that's
I
why
don't know. You know, I think that I could have done a lot with that other show. Like it had a way big, it had a huge following. If I could have played the Christian game and just, you know, went along with what all the Christians were saying to be still popular and acceptable to that crowd, you know, but I couldn't do it. Like my heart couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's because I'm from Seattle. I think it's because like real change and transformation, if I'm going to talk about that, like that includes having to open yourself up to other people, to take those vulnerable parts of ourselves, and be empathetic to the other side who's also struggling. And for me, like I don't think you can really, I think the people that stay like hyper conservative, they just sort of weed out the friends that disagree with them. And I think some people on the left do the same thing too. I think that's part of the toxic culture. That's part of what's spawning all this. Is we're so divided, we're so
Well,
polarized.
it's become, that's what the internet's given us, is it's become a lot easier to filter people out.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's pretty easy to just cut someone off and never really talk to them again. And then it's really easy to find a new group of people. If you're, you know, moderately gregarious person, uh, you can find a new community somewhere else,
yeah.
and just, and you don't have to hear from those people ever again.
That's
Like,
one of the things I miss about church. I think when church is done right, you have liberals and conservatives and black people and white people and Asians and Latinos, and they're all in the same room.
right.
That's really hard to do today.
Yeah, it's super hard.
But I think that that's real community.
Yeah.
When people can say, I love the Lord, right? Like I'm going to worship God with all these other people of different skin colors and belief systems. Like there's something really beautiful about that. And I'm losing hope in us being able to do it anymore.
It's kind
I'm
of like,
laughing. It's like a dark
that was,
comedy. I don't know.
yeah, that was, I mean, that was honestly one of the things that attracted me to Mars Hill at the beginning,
Yeah.
is it felt really diverse. Like
Yeah.
way, well, you know, I was coming from North Idaho, so really diverse for me is not a high bar,
Yeah.
but, but it did. Like there was an amazing mix of people that I just never really engaged with before.
Yeah.
That just kind of atrophied and atrophied and atrophied and atrophied, and then it just died.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I have it in me to watch something like that die again. Like that was so painful,
Yeah.
and I feel like it would. Like I don't have a lot of hope that I could find a new thing, and that in 10 years it wouldn't just once again turn into ashes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and it's also that because we've been there. Like I remember when I first time I interviewed Jim Henderson, he goes, Russ, this isn't my first rodeo.
yeah,
like, like there's something to that.
there's
So
a
it's kind
bad
of like you
part.
and I walking into that kind of environment, knowing that we've been through a few rodeos before, and
Yeah,
then seeing everybody start gravitating to some cult of personality, right? Like some popular dude who's got the right words with a vein popping out of his neck or something.
yeah.
Oh,
Talk to the guy who just finished boot camp, and then go talk to the guy who just finished 3 tours in Iraq, and
yeah.
see how their stories compare.
Oh, fuck. That's
They're
so
gonna be
true.
different.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Tell you what. Well, we should probably wrap this up. I don't think
Yep.
Steve's stopping by,
No,
but
it's good. Yeah.
it's been good hanging out with you.
Well, hopefully soon we can actually do this in person. Things are hopefully
Yeah.
loosening a little bit. So
Yeah, we're gonna be phasing two pretty soon, Snohomish
yeah,
County. So
next couple of weeks, and hopefully we can do this real time.
yeah, and that's kind of some of the heart that I had for this project was that idea of like punk being countercultural means why can't we stay in the room with difference? Why can't we have this kind of rub and work these things out? Because I think you get to that level emotionally with other people. It's really hard. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. that's that's sort of punk too, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Derek, thanks for
Good
being
to see
my
you,
friend, brother. I
Yep.
really value you. I really value you as a friend. And as long as we've known each other, being able to still be friends through all the shit that we went through, as far as our belief systems being smashed into little pieces, at least the social ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, you
All
too.
right. Love you, buddy.
Yep. Love you
Then I'm
too.
going to stop the